Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1151.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about billionaires investing in crypto. Now, before I get to that, I want to tell you a story. Recently, I was at a car show here in Palm Desert, California, and a lot of people were there gathered with their classic cars. It's a really fun thing that happens once a month. And we ran into someone who asked me, "Aren't you the author of that Wealth Heiress book?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Oh, I love a wealthy mindset. That makes so much sense. I've actually talked to our homeowners association about having a wealthy mindset," which of course I got a big kick out of. That was really great to hear. Not only are they learning about having a wealthy mindset for themselves, but they're also teaching other people how to have a wealthy mindset. But then I asked him, "Oh, have you read my other book on crypto?" And he said, "No, I'm not a crypto investor. I don't believe in crypto." And I said, "Oh, don't you like technology?" And he said, "Well, yes, I like technology." Well, that's about as far as the conversation went about digital assets. And what I took from that conversation is that there's a lot of negativity about digital assets out in the media. And the casual investor or the everyday person may not have done the deep dive into the new technology that's coming and how money is being sent as easily as email, and how that's going to change our world, and what smart contracts are, and how they can automate transactions that are today very slow and cumbersome and expensive. There's so many great things about digital assets that we've been talking about on the podcast for the last couple of years, and that I wrote about in my book, and the expectation of this new age that we're going into that I call the quantum age, which is very advanced, very technological, and a big change from where we've been in terms of the cumbersome way that we've been dealing with money. It does not mean that we have to go into a communist system of money, or that money will be treated like a social credit system. I'm absolutely, of course, opposed to anything like that. And I don't think our system will end up like that, because Congress is talking about an Internet Bill of Rights, which is what would prevent that from happening, putting our rights that we have as citizens online so that we also have those rights digitally. And I think that's where we're going to go, and how we're going to have freedom with our digital assets. I also believe that many billionaire investors are already investing heavily in digital assets because they know that's the future. And I wanted to share some articles with you about that, because I've done a lot of different podcasts about what the technology is and how it's going to improve our financial system, but I haven't done a lot of podcasts about why billionaires are feeling very optimistic about the technology. So I wanted to do that today. So our first article I'm going to share with you mentions Chamath Palihapitiya, who is a Sri Lankan-born Canadian and American venture capitalist. He's an engineer. He was one of the early senior executives at Facebook from 2007 to 2011, which is how he became a billionaire. He's now the founder and CEO of Social Capital. According to the Crypto Gazette, Chamath said that the crypto markets are off to the races, and that markets are likely to witness more bursts to the upside following the recent comments of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. In a recent podcast, the venture capitalist said that the statements made by Chairman Powell during the Federal Open Market Committee meeting last week indicated that the Federal Reserve is beginning to ease the pace of future rate hikes. He said in December, Powell was extremely hawkish, and he was basically like, "Listen, we're going to keep rates higher than you like and longer than you want." And he was pretty clear, and the markets reacted. And then, not 35 or 40 days later, he essentially said, We have 2 25 basis point hikes left to go, and he's trying to stick the landing essentially. Then he also said, even though the rest of the language in his entire speech and the press conference, if you read it in the absence of his body language, so if you just read the transcript, would seem very hawkish, but the reality was he basically capitulated, and then the market essentially said, okay, we're at the end of this thing. So Chamath is basically saying that because the Fed is basically at the end of raising interest rates, he believes that will make crypto markets go off to the races. And that's very interesting because the venture capitalists are the ones that are really looking at being early investors in technology. They're the ones that drove the internet when the internet stocks were going crazy and the stock market went wild early on back in the 90s. The venture capitalists were the ones who were early investors in that space. Now they're the early investors in blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and other digital assets. We have venture capitalists like Andreessen Horowitz, who are the premier venture capitalists, if you will. They have been the venture capitalists who have funded many large companies that have been successful and have gone on to be very huge publicly traded companies. Companies like Zillow and Slack, Facebook, Twitter, Lyft, Pinterest, Coinbase. They've really funded a lot of huge companies, and they know what they're doing when they invest in technology. So we like to keep track of what Andreessen Horowitz is investing in. And what we saw in 2022 was more than a quarter, or 28%, of their investment arm, A16Z, when investing in fintech, was investing in the payments category. They also are actively invested in developing blockchain platforms and invested 22% of its fintech deal volume in blockchain companies in 2022, and about 12% went into digital lending. So although the market turmoil caused many venture capitalists to pull back on their investing, Andreessen Horowitz was still active in this space. Another tech billionaire that we like to follow is Mark Cuban, because Mark was there back in the internet days. He's compared that time to what we're going through in cryptocurrency and digital assets, which I have also compared. And he recognizes the investment potential and opportunity that this is providing, which I completely agree with. So a few months ago, Mark Cuban said, with crypto, it's very analogous to the state of streaming services in the 1990s. And just as an aside, you'll remember he made his first $1 billion by selling a streaming company that streamed sports events online. It was the first company to put sports events on the computer, if you will. He said, with crypto, it's very analogous to that. We're in the early hassle phases. Now, the very earliest of crypto, however you want to decide the beginning with Bitcoin or whatever, has been around 12 years. But in terms of applications with smart contracts, that's only 2017 for the most part. And so we're really only 5 years in. So I'm still really bullish on crypto. We had some early wins, just like streaming audio with sports and news. And now with crypto, you have DeFi, decentralized finance, and you have money transfer and some other applications. But you haven't had any mainstream applications where your mom says, okay, we've got to get a wallet because I have to do A, B, and C. It's been DeFi, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and money transfer. And so it's kind of boring right now. We're waiting for that next round of applications, and there's a lot of people working on them. Well, that was a great quote from Mark, and it was kind of long, so I'll just point out a few things. He says he's still really bullish on crypto. He thinks it's very early in this technology, which I completely agree with and documented in my book. And he points out that we haven't gotten to the phase where everybody is using the technology yet, and it's part of our everyday life. That's where he talks about where mom is going to have a wallet. And he's right. When we get to the point where everybody's using the technology and it's fully phased in, that's when we can think of some of our investments being more toward a mature phase. But right now, we are so early on. Many people are not even familiar with what's going on with crypto or digital assets or non-fungible tokens or smart contracts or even what they are. This is new technology that can speed up things, speed up money transfer, make it so much more convenient and less expensive with lower fees for everyone to use. I believe in the future, we'll be using smart contracts to close real estate transactions automatically so that you don't have to have so many parties involved, such a high cost to close the transaction, and it can happen much faster. I also think with non-fungible tokens, probably music and books and original works of art are going to be connected to NFTs so that people can have control of their own original creations and receive money for them without having to go through an intermediary. Money transfer is going to be as easy as sending an email, and it can be sent anywhere on the planet. So the future is very bright, and I believe we're very fortunate investors to be involved early on in the early adoption. You know, there's a bell-shaped curve to technology adoption. There's on the left side of the bell, there's early adoption. In the middle of the bell at the midpoint, the high point is when the masses start adopting it, and then on the right side is late adoption. We are definitely on that left side of the bell-shaped curve in early adoption, which means that we're able to buy cryptocurrencies for 5 cents, a fraction of a cent, 10 cents, 40 cents, $1. I can't promise that any will turn out as valuable as Bitcoin, but I will point out that at one time, Bitcoin was way below $1 in the fraction of a cent area as well. So if something goes very mainstream and gets a lot of adoption and grows very rapidly and scales, there is potential out there for the next Bitcoin. Absolutely. If you want to invest like the venture capitalists and you're an accredited investor and have that level of assets or income, you can do that through private equity and own the stock before the IPO. You can buy shares of stock after they go public, or you can invest in cryptocurrencies, or all three. But the opportunities today, I think, were very early on, and these billionaires are telling us this is where they're investing. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available. And all of my podcasts are available in my wealth mentoring library on my website at lindapjones.com/podcasts. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.